U.S. officials say the Biden administration is now prepared to send its most advanced battle tanks to Ukraine. This is a reversal following reluctance from both the Pentagon and the administration. Ed O'Keefe is joining us now from the White House to discuss. And I will stress to the audience, Ed, that we don't have an official announcement from the U.S. Yet, but these are the reports that these Abrams tanks may be going over to Ukraine. What can you tell us about this decision and this reversal?
That's right. CBS News has learned that the Biden administration is indeed planning to send Abrams tanks to Ukraine. The exact number not yet specifically known, but we're told it'll be at least a few dozen at this point. The announcement comes this morning as the Germans have announced that they'll be sending about 14 so-called Leopard tanks into Ukraine. Ukraine and Poland now both saying they're willing to commit those pieces of hardware to the Ukrainian operations against Russia. Part of what's going on here is there was a big meeting last week of NATO members in Europe where the United States was trying to convince European allies to provide tanks and other materials to Ukraine to prepare for a spring offensive once the weather warms up in that part of the world. The Germans were reluctant to commit these Leopard tanks, which are seen as a far more nimble piece of fighting equipment. There are thousands of them across Europe that several European countries have, and others had said that they were willing to put them up as well. But the Germans essentially signaled, we don't want to do that unless the U.S. commits Abrams tanks. The problem with these Abrams tanks is they run on jet fuel. They are bulkier. They are harder to operate. And so it's going to require getting them there, training Ukrainian military to use them, and then deploying them. It's several months from happening. But an announcement is anticipated later today from either here at the White House or over at the Pentagon in coordination with the German announcement formally this morning that it's going to allow those Leopard tanks to go to Ukraine.
So I just quickly did a Google search, and I don't know how accurate this is, so I'll just say at least one tank is several $1 million. So this is a lot of money. It's not just the tanks, it's training troops to operate the tanks, it's making sure that they can be fixed if they're damaged. This is a lot of money. How have lawmakers responded to this announcement or this possibility?
If you were to survey Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill, they'd say, why haven't we done this already? Most of them would. There's strong support for giving Ukraine whatever it needs at this point to continue conducting these operations against Russia. You'll likely hear today, once it's official, more Democrats and Republicans both say this is a good move, and if Ukraine needs more, let's give it to them. The issue, of course, has been throughout this operation, the United States reluctant to be seen as giving too much too quickly, because they don't want to provoke Russia in a way that would expand the conflict. But in this case now, U.S. officials prepared to do this. And they will point out, they have been pointing out in the last few days as this debate ensued between Europe and the United States was never opposed to sending Abrams tanks to Ukraine outright. It's just, it takes a lot more to send them, and it costs a lot more to run them, and it's going to require some pretty careful training of Ukrainian military so that they know how to run them.
Yeah, indeed. Listen, before I let you go, got to talk to you a little bit about the discovery of more classified documents, this time at the former Vice President Mike Pence's house. So we've got a number of investigations going on now in regards to the various discoveries. Out of curiosity, just who's paying for all of this? Who's paying for the current president's private attorneys as they all sort of wade through this classified document debacle?
It's an important question to be asking because we know in the case of former President Trump, the Republican National Committee at times has paid some of his personal legal bills. So we've asked here at the White House repeatedly, who is paying for the services of Bob Bauer, the president's personal attorney, who is working on this issue, in addition to some attorneys from the White House counsel's office who have to be involved because he is, after all, the president. CBS News heard from a Bauer spokeswoman who said, quote, the engagement between the president and Bauer is directly between the president and his lawyer on terms that in no way involve the use of taxpayer dollars. You would think that means she's saying the president pays his legal bills, but she wouldn't specify whether it's the president himself or some other entity that is paying for the services. And again, we ask this because there was some recent precedent in this. The last president used a political entity to pay his legal bills. The Clintons at times, remember, with their legal troubles have raised money from others to help for a legal defense fund. Unclear in this case so far whether the president's footing the bill himself or whether there's some other entity doing it. Another important thing to keep in mind, Bob Bauer, longtime Democratic campaign attorney, worked for the Obama administration, the Obama and the Biden campaigns. His wife, Anita Dunn, is a senior aide to the president and works here in the West Wing. So shows you that both of them intimately and directly involved in this. Anita Dunn also was one of those that was part of the strategy of not revealing all this when it happened back in November, arguing that it was better to keep it under wraps and ensure that the president and his team cooperated with the Justice Department before telling the world.
Very interesting. Ed O'Keefe, thank you.